thank you very much for all of your work and for your service to the National Science Foundation. We could not do the work that we do without colleagues such as yourself giving of your time, giving of your expertise in order to assess the proposals that come in and be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. I have a couple of my colleagues here who I'd like to have introduce themselves. I have my co-lead, Karen Crosby. Karen, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, maybe she's not online. I also see Rachel Slama. Rachel, are you there? Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I see some familiar names. I'm Rachel Slama. I am an expert consultant in the TIP Directorate, which stands for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. And I am also, my day job is the Director of Labor and Workforce Development at the RAND Corporation. So I want to apologize in advance for any late night emails, and I'll try to be as responsive as possible. And I'm just thrilled you're here and want to echo Dan's sentiment. We are grateful for you serving in this role and all your contributions.
Thank you, Rachel. And when Karen comes back online, I'll have her introduce herself as well. But
I'm actually here.
Oh, hi, Karen.
Hi. Sorry, the system wasn't allowing me to unmute myself initially, but thank you for giving me a moment to say hello to everyone here. My name is Karen Crosby, and as mentioned, I am a program officer in the Division for Undergraduate Education, which is in the Directorate for STEM Education, and I'm glad to be working on this project, on this program, rather, with Dan, as well as Rachel and some of the other program officers that are taking part in this really important program. And I also want to copy Dan's sentiments and say thank you so much for agreeing to do this really, really big and really important job. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So today we're talking about the ExLENT program and the ExLENT solicitation. And you can see this is the number NSF 23-507. Like all things at NSF and many things in the government, this is an acronym which stands for Experiential Learning for Emerging and Novel Technologies. But this is the program that you're going to be helping us review for. This is a partnership between the newly formed directorate called TIP, that's the Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships, and the newly named directorate for STEM education, which is now EDU. So this is one of the partnerships between the two programs. And this is just going to be a quick kind of reviewer training. And so we're going to try to encompass all the reviewers, information for all the reviewers for the different tracks that we have. So where we think a majority of this is going to be relevant for everyone, perhaps not all of the information will be relevant to each individual reviewer. So just keep that in mind as we're moving forward. This is for the September 2023 submission. We had a prior submission back in March. And so I want to now again reiterate our thanks to you for your service as a reviewer here to the National Science Foundation and to the ExLENT program. As we've said before, we simply could not do our work without your work. And we do our best to make sure that your work is extraordinarily anonymous, and we don't pay you that much. So we're very, very thankful for the fact that you do the work that you do on our behalf. So we're just going to have a quick kind of overview of the program. I want to give you a little bit of history about the program, what we're looking for, what the program is trying to accomplish. Then we're going to touch upon what kind of the nuts and bolts of what you'll be doing as a reviewer, how you are going to interact with Fastlane to prepare your reviews, to put those reviews in, and then a couple of important considerations in terms of conflicts of interest, confidentiality, and bias. So what is this program? The intent of this program is aligned with the new legislation that came out in the CHIPS and Science Act authorization bill back in 2022. And it authorized a large number of funds to put towards building a diverse STEM workforce. And so that term workforce is a key aspect of what this ExLENT program is trying to accomplish. And part of the ExLENT program is trying to tackle the challenges that are related to critical technologies across the U.S. security. So in the CHIPS and Science Act, they listed a number of what at the time was thought to be emerging technologies, things such as AI, semiconductors, biotechnology. But as you'll see as we go through, is that an all-encompassing list? The answer is no. But we'll touch upon that a little bit more later. What are the goals of the program? So there are multiple goals of this program. And again, the first is to expand access to career training and opportunities through experiential learning activities, and to expand access to a broad and diverse population of those, to truly try to tap into the diverse talent that we have here in the United States, to bring them in line into the workforce on some emerging technology. And it can include individuals who are just entering the workforce, individuals who might be entering but might not fully understand or appreciate what these emerging technologies are, and for individuals who are already in the workforce and want to move or pivot into a different area. The goals of the program are to remove the barriers to allow those individuals into these workforce spaces. It also promotes partnerships. So in order to do this, we're hoping to see cross-sector partnerships between organizations that have expertise in emerging technologies. This might be private biotech or private AI companies, and those with expertise in workforce development, universities, community colleges, those sorts of things. And then we also want to then develop that workforce that are aligned with regional economies as well. So we're very interested in regional partnerships, which can then accomplish these goals. How do we do this? Well, we're the National Science Foundation, and we do this by providing funding through grant mechanisms. That's our job. For this particular call, we have about $30 million available, and we will award proposals up to $1 million total, that's direct and indirect costs, for a total of 3 years. Funding eligibility, for-profit, nonprofit, state and local government, institutions of higher education, etc. We try to keep this as open as possible as to who can apply. So what do we fund? So as we said, we have kind of 3 tracks, which we're going to go into briefly. But each of these tracks has a specific focus on experiential learning activities. So you're going to see in the proposals that you're reviewing, you're going to see a lot of those activities such as internships, cooperative programs, service-based learning and research opportunities, and others. And the idea here is to help individuals who may have been historically underrepresented to have access to STEM careers, to create kind of on-ramps for non-traditional students for educational pathways into these emerging technology fields. And the hope is that this is going to serve a broad community so that we can tap into that diverse talent from very, very young and very, very early workforce individuals in the workforce to even those who are already well established in the workforce and might want to move into this technology. So the key features of the proposal that you're going to see are, one, it's going to hopefully provide some pathways into these emerging technology fields. It's going to include a lot of partnerships, individuals with distinct and diverse backgrounds, and situ experiences. That's the hands-on experiential experiences. It's going to attend to issues of safety and privacy. There will be documentation to provide for that. It's going to have multiple stakeholders. You're going to have mentors from all different areas. It's going to build communities. So you're going to see a lot of those sorts of things. A couple of things I want to draw your attention to is we are really looking for a sustainability plan. So in your assessments of these proposals, we would really like to hear your assessment of how sustainable is this work going to be after the initial kind of seed funding that we give runs out. And we also require an evaluation plan. And we're going to ask you to assess how they are evaluating their successes. How do they know they're going to be, successful in what they're proposing to do? So what is an emerging technology field? So there's a list of the fields here on the screen. And again, this is really language that is almost, copied and pasted from the CHIPS and Science Act. Is this list all-inclusive? Absolutely not. So if the individual proposal can justify to you as you're reviewing it that this is an emerging field, we absolutely want to hear that, and we want to assess that. So how do we accomplish these goals? We broke it down into 3 tracks, and I know that not all of you are going to be assessing every single track. We tried to break down the panels into individual tracks. So some of you might be assessing pivots, some of you might be assessing beginnings, some of you might be assessing explorations. We're going to go through each track relatively briefly. So the first track is the pivots track. And the idea here is these are for participants who are already in the workforce. They're not necessarily, or they're not currently, rather, enrolled in some post-secondary education, and they're not in college, not getting a bachelor's or associate's degree, but they've already developed some skills based on the careers that they are in or they have been experienced in. And this might require a reskilling or an upskilling sort of idea into these emerging technology fields. So as participants of this track can think to kind of pivot right into this emerging field. And these proposals should really describe how they will address those barriers, the barriers preventing those individuals who might already be in one field from moving into a completely different field in an emerging technology area. So they're really going to have to describe that in a feasible way. The other track is called beginnings. So much like it sounds, these are for individuals who might possess some existing STEM competencies. So this might be someone with, maybe a certificate for someone who enrolled in an associate's degree program. So someone in the beginning or early career stage with experiential learning opportunities that will then deepen their skills and knowledge in this emerging technology field. So these proposals should address how they're going to provide these beginning participants with opportunities that could result in some resume beginning experiences in emerging technology fields. So that's the beginning. So someone who already has some existing STEM competencies, and we are looking to move them into this emerging tech field. And then we have the explorations track, and we've highlighted this below because this track was not offered in March when we had the solicitation, but it is offered here. And the idea here is looking for individuals who might be enrolled in a traditional educational pathway, but they have now limited knowledge of emerging technology fields. So they might not have an appreciation or knowledge of STEM, unlike the beginnings, where they might be in a beginnings kind of STEM-related field. And here they're looking to explore, right, their interest, their potential impact, their movement into this emerging technology field. So these proposals should describe how they're going to provide these experiential learning opportunities that will, 1, build interest in the field, and then 2, identify pathways to move into these emerging technology fields. So that's the background of the ExLENT program. What are you all going to be doing specifically as reviewers, or how are you going to, interact with us to provide your reviews? So first of all, you should have already received, or you will be receiving soon, an email which tells you the panel ID number, and that's the number that begins with P2 and then some string of numbers. You're going to have a contact for a specific program officer, either myself or some of the colleagues that we've seen here on the screen. Dates and times for the panel. You're going to need access to a computer with a high-speed internet connection and access to a Zoom with camera and microphone. You're going to assess your proposals, or access your proposals and assess them on Fastlane. And you're going to be listed as one of 3 titles for review, either a primary or lead, secondary or reviewer, or tertiary or scribe. I guess on Fastlane, you'll also be listed as a panelist. So that's, I guess, a fourth. I'll tell you about what those are. So each proposal that you're going to be submitting a review for, you're going to have one of three titles. You're either going to be what's called primary or lead. And if you are the primary or the lead on a proposal, what you need to do is read the proposal and write and submit a review of that proposal. And then when the panel comes, you're going to lead or kick off discussion on the panel. You're going to, give them a brief overview, tell the strengths and weakness of each section. On the panel day, we'll have more information and guidance about how leads do this. If you are listed as tertiary or scribe on a proposal, you're also going to read the proposal, write and submit a review. But then you're also going to serve as the scribe for what we call the panel summary. And the panel summary is a summary of the discussion of what happens at the panel. So you're going to be, taking your notes. This is me typing. You're going to be taking your notes, listening to people talk of their strengths and weaknesses. You're going to craft a first draft of this panel summary document, and then all of the other reviewers are going to be able to discuss and edit that panel summary document so that it accurately reflects the discussion of the proposal in panel. And then that panel summary will go out to the PIs who submitted their proposal. Now, if you are listed as a secondary or reviewer, you need to read the proposal and you need to also submit a review. And then you will also provide your discussion of strengths and weaknesses after the lead. So typically it goes lead, overview, strengths, weaknesses, secondary reviewer, hey, I completely agree, don't need to reiterate this sort of thing, but I want to maybe underscore this, or hey, I didn't hear something that I want to bring up. Second reviewer says the same thing, and then scribe comes in and says, I want to add this to the discussion, and hey, could you provide clarity on this point? Or I didn't hear this point, so that we have a complete panel summary. If you are listed as a panelist, you don't have to read the proposal. You can, but you don't have to submit a review. Any panelist can can participate in the discussion of any proposal on panel. So if you aren't assigned to an individual proposal, but you are like, hey, this is kind of interesting, I might want to give it a read. Yeah, absolutely. Feel free. As long as you are not conflicted, you've not identified a conflict on that proposal, you are free to read through it and provide any additional discussion points during panel. All right, so what are we asking you to look at when you're assessing these proposals? So the National Science Foundation has their two critical review criteria that all proposals must address. This is the intellectual merit and the broader impacts. And then there's a third solicitation consideration, which is called solicitation specific criteria. We'll get into those in a second. So intellectual merit encompasses the potential to advance knowledge, and broader impacts the potential to benefit society and contribute to the achievement of specific desired societal outcomes. I expand upon that a little bit here. So merit review considerations for both intellectual merit and the broader impacts. What's the potential for the proposed activity to advance knowledge or understanding within its own field or across different fields? So this is the intellectual merit. So for something like ExLENT, are they perhaps providing a training program or a training opportunity or activities that, yes, might be highly relevant for someone who wants to get into AI, but also might be relevant for someone who wants to get into biotech, or for someone who wants to get into another emerging field? Is it that broad that it could touch upon multiple different disciplines or subdisciplines? That would be an aspect of assessment in intellectual merit. For broader impacts, this is to benefit society or advance specific societal outcomes. Does it increase the ability to communicate to the public? Does it increase representation of underrepresented individuals? Does it increase training of undergraduate students, graduate students, high school students, K through 12? All of those sorts of things which might benefit specific societal outcomes. And then the solicitation specific criteria for ExLENT are also things that you want to consider. Oh, I'm sorry, that's in the next slide. So this is more on intellectual merit and broader impacts. So as I suggested, intellectual merit, disciplinary, but also crossing disciplines. This is what we at the National Science Foundation call potentially transformative, and something able to change the way we think about and assess disciplines. Something for both intellectual merit and broader impacts. Is it feasible? Do they present a plan for carrying this out? And is there some mechanism to assess success in both of those cases? 3, how well qualified are these individuals? That falls into this whole feasibility aspect. And then finally, are there adequate resources at both the PI level and also at the institutional level to be able to carry out the activities that they say they want to do? So now here are the additional solicitation specific criteria. So what we're asking you to specifically assess, in addition to the intellectual merit and broader impacts, are also these 3 topics. So the first being, what extent does this create on-ramps for these diverse individuals to get into these emerging technology fields? Because again, the goal of the ExLENT program is to really create and tap into this diverse talent to make this workforce. So that's one thing we're really asking about, these on-roads or in-ramps. And secondly, what extent do the projects then reduce the barriers so that members of groups that are underrepresented can get into these emerging fields? So we're asking these individuals to, say if it's a pivot, to target a group of individuals who may already be in the existing workforce, remove the barriers for those individuals to get into this new workforce. And then third, what extent does the project develop the interests, motivations, skills, and knowledge for the workers in the emerging fields? So you've been able to identify on-ramps, you've been able to remove the barriers, and now tell us about the actual training and the skills that these individuals are going to get to make them competitive for these emerging technology fields. So those are the 3 additional things we're asking you to look for. You're going to do all of this work in FastLane. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the interface that you're going to see in FastLane in the next couple of slides. You're going to see intellectual merit, broader impacts, then these solicitation specific criteria. You're going to see each of these in kind of a separate box in FastLane. We're asking you to put in strengths and weaknesses or strengths and concerns for intellectual merit, strengths and concerns for your broader impacts, and then also touch upon strengths and concerns for solicitation specific criteria. The summary statement is going to be a sentence or 2 at the very end of your review saying, this is the rationale for why I'm providing this particular rating for this particular proposal. So in addition to these, you're going to see that these proposals also have mentoring plans, letters of collaboration, and budget justification. And these are areas that will really help you assess the feasibility of what it is they're trying to do. So supplemental documents that you're going to see in the ExLENT program, there are 2. So there's letters of collaboration. The letters are going to be submitted according to what we call the PAPPG guidelines. And this is more information about what that looks like. Essentially, this is kind of a canned language that says, yes, if funded, I will collaborate with this individual as they specified in the proposal. These letters of collaboration are not intended to be letters of support. They're not intended to be long and say, and let me tell you why this is such an amazing proposal. Let me give you additional information. That's not allowable because that could break the page limit rules, essentially. But it's going to be very specific canned language. And you can find what that language is down here in chapter 2. If you simply Google this PAPPG, that'll have that language. Or reach out to a program officer, we'd be happy to help. And then a mentoring plan. So the mentoring plan, which is limited to 2 pages, needs to address the plan that they have for mentoring the participants who are going to be coming in to participate in these activities that they're proposing. This is what it's going to look like in the interface for FastLane. All right, so if we have not, we will provide you with a template for your review. You can follow that template. That template kind of breaks this down relatively well. There are these 4 sections that you're going to see. They're going to look like this on Fastlane. It's going to say, hey, in the context of these review elements that are up here on Fastlane, please evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of intellectual merit. Section 1. Broader impacts, Section 2. Any solicitation-specific criteria. Those are those 3 bullet points, those 3 items that we had in the previous slide. Strengths and weaknesses are going to go in here in this section. And then finally, you're going to have a summary statement, which is going to say, hey, based on these strengths and weaknesses, I am providing this with the following rating. What is a rating? Well, this is the rating that you're going to then provide. So you've assessed these strengths and weaknesses, you thought about your summary statement, and then you're going to say, based on all of this, I think this proposal is rated as excellent to poor, right? So if this is an excellent proposal, this is an outstanding proposal in all respects. So you are providing to us a very strong feedback to say, I really think that this is one of the best proposals I've read. It really aligns with the program. This should deserve the highest support. There's very good, which is a very high quality proposal in all aspects or nearly all aspects, but maybe there's some minor weaknesses in one or multiple areas that taken together kind of bring your enthusiasm down a little bit. Good, still a quality proposal, still worthy of support, but maybe there are a couple of larger weaknesses, again, in one or more sections that together kind of bring your enthusiasm down. A fair means that there's something lacking in this proposal in one or more critical aspects. And it means that key issues need to be addressed. And if this is a poor, it means this proposal just has serious deficiencies. It completely doesn't align with the program, or there are some serious flaws or fatal errors that you think just puts this out of the running for this particular call. Couple of suggestions. Don't restate the project's work. You can absolutely, we want to see kind of at the beginning, kind of an overview of, hey, this project does X, Y, and Z. But you don't have to provide, as stated, blah, 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 blah. We're really looking for more assessment here. Do provide details to support your assessment, though, such as I think this is a strength. Well, indicate why that is a strength to us. And then that's also valuable information for the PI, or this is a concern, this is a weakness. Why is this a weakness? And then relate your strengths and weaknesses to these review criteria, intellectual merit, broader impacts, solicitation specific criteria. And then finally, your narrative should be consistent with the proposal ranking that you give. If you provide this as an excellent, but we see tons and tons and tons of weaknesses, we might wonder, why is it that you've provided this with an excellent? Or if you provided this with a poor and this is the best thing since sliced bread, then we're going to ask that question too. So I'm also going to, let me go back and let me just also say, when writing your reviews, write them on a third-party application like Microsoft Word or something. Don't write them in Fastlane. A joke I say is Fastlane is not fast. It has a tendency to kick you out. It has a tendency to refresh itself, and then you lose work that you're put on there. So don't work in Fastlane, work on Microsoft Word or something else. And then when you're done, copy and paste. It will save you time and headache. A couple of notes about conflicts of interest. We have already asked you to submit to us a conflict of interest form. That's form 1230P. And we also should have sent to you a list of proposals, titles, and then PIs and institutions and those sorts of things that will be on your panel. So hopefully we've already identified most of the main conflicts of interest in the panel. But I will say that it's never, ever too late to identify a conflict. If you are, even up to the panel day, if you're going through and you're listening to a proposal, you say, oh my gosh, hold on, I think there's a conflict. You can stop review, bring that up to a program officer. We can handle those conflicts in real time. What are some examples of conflict? Well, there's personal and institutional conflicts. You have personal conflicts if it involves someone like a family member, a past or present thesis or dissertation student, personnel that are affiliated with your institution, someone who's been working with you as a professional partner or a collaboration within the past 48 months, or a co-editor on some project within the past 24 months. Those would all be considered personal conflicts, which would prevent you from reviewing the individual proposal. There are also institutional conflicts that could prevent you from serving on the panel. And this means that if you are at an institution where you're planning to work, or you are currently working at, the employer or school of your spouse or child. Now, this is school specific. So, Department of Biology, College of Arts and Sciences, for example, if your spouse or child is at an institution there. An employer who's currently considering you for a job, or someone living in your household. Again, if you have any questions as to whether or not something is a conflict, please reach out to a program officer. We can help with that. A note on confidentiality. So all the materials in preparation for the review and the review itself are considered confidential. Please do not discuss your assessments with other individuals unless a program officer is present. So that means essentially you need to do this discussion at the panel when program officers are present, so that we can oversee the process of review. That's our job, one aspect of our job anyway. Do not email your reviews back and forth, either to other reviewers or to program officers. Please upload everything onto Fastlane. I know program officers have said, hey, if you want to do a review and let me take a look at it, that'd be great. Upload that onto Fastlane. The POs can then assess those reviews on Fastlane, and then they can provide some feedback. The identity of NSF panelists is confidential. So, on your CV, you can say, a general statement, I served on NSF panel in 2023, but don't put in the panel ID. Don't say this was for the ExLENT program or anything like that. We try to really keep everything very confidential. And then finally, I want to just mention minimizing bias. And we all have bias, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And these biases may be positive or negative, and everyone has these. And there are actual real-world consequences of these biases. And so a couple of ways to mitigate these biases is by first simply raising awareness that they exist, as we're trying to do here, and then commit to focusing on the review criteria, the merit review criteria. So make sure that you're not under a huge time crunch, minimize distractions, and then when necessary, just stop and ask, would this be a concern or a strength for someone else at a different institution? Dr. Fabulous at the outstanding institution may have put in a very terrible proposal, and that should be assessed as such. Panel logistics. So you're gonna, as I mentioned, you're gonna do your work through Fastlane. You should have gotten an email saying, hey, this is how you access Fastlane, etc. You want to send in your conflict of interest form. We've asked you to submit your reviews either 24 to 48 hours prior to the meeting. The program officer is sent out when they are asking for your reviews. That just allows the program officers to do a little bit of work prior to the panel that is necessary to get stuff ready for the panel. And then, as I've mentioned, don't work in Fastlane, work in Word, and then cut and paste them into Fastlane. And then you have to assign a ranking for each. Excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. Do not split the rankings. Don't say excellent / very good. If it's excellent, call it excellent. If it's very good, call it very good. Try to use the full range. Reimbursement. So I think you each get $200 a day for virtual panels. Note that these panels are non-contiguous. So a Monday and a Wednesday, a Tuesday and a Thursday. You might, when you get your Zoom meeting invitation, it might be, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but know that Monday and Wednesday are the panel days. That reimbursement's not going to come from the NSF. It's going to come from the Treasury. And if you get more than $600 in any particular tax year, you're going to get a Form 1099 from the NSF. So again, let me stop and say thank you very much for your attention and for your work on behalf of the National Science Foundation.